excited to get into this ride. It's been building for some time, and the planning has gone into it with overseas calls and arrangements with our special guest today. So to get us a bit of a update on the style of TCC and how our rides are going, how they're building over the last 13 to 14 weeks that we've been doing this program, please welcome the dulcet tones of host / steering committee / ride director, Sandy Wool.
It's a very grand title. Thanks, Duncan. And again, thanks everyone for joining us. Particularly thanks to all our new guests. Welcome aboard. Really do hope you enjoy listening into the conversations we have going each week. Today is going to be a great one. I know the avid cyclist is going to be here. Keen to hear from Matt Hayman, and particularly around the Paris-Roubaix win of 2016. For those of you who are unaware of why I'm puffing, I am in the game. There is a screen you can actually see. You should be able to see the screen of the game of all the cyclists riding in the game, so you get an idea of why we're all puffing and huffing. So we do have many international guests. For those of you who are international, chin chin. And for those of you in the morning, here's your coffee. There's the coffee. So I've got my coffee ready to take in a great story. So back to you, Duncan.
Thanks, Sandy. I've never seen anyone with double-fisted drinks on a push bike before, so mate, you're bringing a new flavour, that's for sure. It is a great pleasure to welcome this morning for all cycling fans. And we know a lot of people are like on the beach walking, doing their morning exercise, connecting with their family or sitting in their offices. So it's not all about cyclists this morning. We're hearing a story of a great sporting champion and how his life lessons, I think, over the next 45 minutes, just not on the bike, but also off the bike, it will really teach us something, inspire us and motivate us in terms of what we're doing with our health, our fitness and connecting with people. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a great Australian cyclist, Matt Hayman. Matt travelled overseas at a very, very early age in his teens, chasing the dream of being a pro cyclist, achieving that dream, then going on to some amazing success, which we're going to get down to. As I've already said, Matt is cycling along with you in Zwift. He is in Belgium, in his pain cave, joining you in yours, and it's great to have him along. Matt, welcome to TCC, mate. Great to have you along, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much. Yeah, what an introduction, and happy to be here. I'm normally in my pain cave a little bit by myself, but it's nice to, in recent times with this COVID, I've actually been able to meet up with my younger brother and a few other people through this, but normally it was just me staring at a wall or at Zwift. Great to have everybody on board.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. We're going to start way back in the day, and you just spoke about one of your brothers there, and it was really sort of your family inspiring you, especially your brother who's 6 years older than you. You went to Europe and you basically chased the same dream as him. And that's where you got your start as a 18 or a 19-year-old back in, 97, coming away from Australia and getting overseas.
Yeah, very much so. Born in Sydney, grew up on a farm outside of Goulburn in New South Wales. And Mum took my older brother into Goulburn Cycling Club one day, and he was the one that actually caught the bug, and I was just dragged around for so many races that I decided to give it a go. Once you've been sitting in the car driving all over New South Wales, you're starting to get a bit bored. So I started myself, and yeah, he made the first move to come overseas, and he was very much, set it all in motion, and in many ways loved the sport probably more than I did, and was more passionate than I was. But failed to turn pro, and has been one of my biggest supporters ever since.
Hey, with your brother, trying to live the dream and stuff like that, how did that ground you? Because that's a huge life lessons right out of the gate. That doesn't matter how much you're passionate about, you've got to do the hard work, and sometimes success and access into that sort of like next level, that pro life on cycling is just so tremendously hard. How much seeing your brother go through what he was going through really set you up for success when you got over there as a 19-year-old?
Yeah, look, I look back as me as a 19-year-old, and I was a pretty cocky little bike rider. And I think once I became professional, most of that was knocked out of me, and I came to realise that, in the big pool of professionals, that I wasn't as good. But as a young as a young rider, I was getting he started a little bit late, and I was already getting a lot of results, and I was pretty confident in my ability. And I owe a lot to him. Coming over to Europe as a 16 or 17-year-old, he was already putting me up and trying to help me find teams. He was already doing more than he probably should have been, and it was tough for him to see him finish his career and not make it to professional, which was, that's all you're really thinking about for a long part of this. And it's not until you turn pro that you realise you're just actually at the start of the road. But for many years, that was the goal.
Hey, what was it like getting your first contract? Like we talked to Brody Chapman about hers, Mark Renshaw, Scott McGrory, Stephen last week. Well, what's it like? Because you get over there with such dreams, you made the big effort, you're missing your family, you're doing the thing, you're learning the languages, you're living in a different country. You've got stars in your eyes. You know who your favourites are, in terms of the guys up the front of the peloton winning races or classics or on the track at the professional. So what's it like, when you first break into that access door of a pro cycling contract?
Yeah, look, I raced at Rabobank when they had a development team there, and I rode there for 3 years. And, a lot of, we had a great team. We're winning a lot of races. And it got to a point where a couple of, close friends of mine was saying, if all these other guys are turning pro and you're going to have to win a couple of races to turn pro. And at the end of 1999, I won a few races. I was doing really well. And a couple of teams came knocking, but there was no way I was going to turn down Rabobank. It was one of the world's best teams at the time. And yeah, a massive. I distinctly remember being back in Australia and waking up on New Year's Day. And on New Year's Day, being somewhere with friends from Canberra and being on a beach somewhere, we'd rented a beach house and thinking, I'm pro from now, the 1st of January. Even though I was a little bit hungover, but that was, I've kind of made, and you don't realise then, it was the beginning of 19 years of hard work, and I was very far from making it. But, as a 21-year-old, I thought I'd made it.
Yeah, it's all about that identity, to be able to name what you are in a quick sentence. People say, what do you do, man? You go, I'm a pro cyclist. Yeah, it's got just some magic about it, hasn't it?
Well, now
and then
you get over there. Pro cyclist.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what do you do? Well, I do many things. We'll get to that in a minute in terms of what you are doing, because what you are doing is just as exciting as your career. But so you got into Rabobank and then Sky. What was it like joining the Sky team? Because they were such a juggernaut team.
Yeah, I guess the thing with Sky was it was a rejuvenation of my career, because and listening to all the people that had Stephen last week, when he started talking about trying to make sure that he was the best domestique that he could possibly be. And I definitely went down that road. And I got very comfortable at Rabobank. They were paying me well, I was doing my job, but there was no real ambition. The passion was kind of gone. And so it was a big jump for me to go to Sky, but I really enjoyed that whole, the scientific side of it, the way they were trying to push the sport further. And it brought me back to the days of being surrounded by ACT Academy of Sport, the Institute of Sport in Canberra, and really looking at everything from a scientific point of view, which I felt was kind of missing at Rabobank. Was a really traditional, this is just bike racing, this is just how you do it, it's how we've done it for so many years. And so it was nice to be in that new environment. And I think it really rejuvenated me and kickstarted my career to start believing that I was, had the ability to win again. So yeah, that was a great 4 years.
When you joined Sky and you're talking about being a domestique and stuff like that, what were your dreams when you first got your pro card? What were you already identifying yourself as what type of rider you were? Because
I guess that cocky 19-year-old, he wanted to win stages in the Tour de France like everybody else did.
Absolutely.
And, although I say now my dreams come true, I never won a stage in the Tour de France. But that was probably, if I'm brutally honest, that's as a 19-year-old, you want to win a stage in the Tour.
So by the time you got to Sky, what were you thinking you were then? Because you would have had coaches, you would have Sonias, you would have had managers, you would have had all the physios who would have been giving you their opinion in terms of what they thought you were. And then you got team managers placing you in a job, like you just said, to do the work. Yeah. So what was that doing to your dreams in terms of what style of rider you thought you were?
Look, I think even though maybe I was fulfilling the role at Rabobank, they really put a name to the role of being road captain and being more of a leader. And that was something that excited me, and that was something that my personality fits pretty naturally into doing that. So yeah, that was something that at Sky, the real leadership kind of role, helping these people coming to me for advice on how a team should be run and how things should be going. And on the road, I was always big into the tactics and having real leadership.
So you're saying that you had a real head for cycling in terms of the tactical advantage over maybe a lot of the peloton in terms of how you saw the road coming to you, saw the tactics needed by the team. So you're displaying natural leadership ability. Did you take that over to Sky, and was it the same role in Sky, or did you have to build up to that again?
Yeah, no, they brought me on for that from my experience. I mean, they were starting a team. They needed to get a team that was going to gel and the right kind of culture. No, definitely, but I think they just pinned a name on it. Maybe I was starting to do that. I was getting to an age. Most of those roles get given to people with age. I mean, the mere fact that you just need the experience, and that's what I was getting. So, yeah, it was just more really pinning it down and identifying that was part of my job description, not just being a domestique, but also being an extension of the director on the road, making those little adjustments. I don't think I was ever making big calls in the race. It's just remembering what was the call, what was the goal for today's stage, are we still on track? And from being a domestique where you're always putting everybody else's interests for your own, that's who you want doing that role in the race. So you're not really thinking about how's this going to affect me.
Yeah, no, we hear about leadership groups and captains on the field in other sports like rugby league and AFL and stuff like that. And what the coach is looking for, I guess the manager in cycling, is that echo, that team echo, that basically, here's the plan for the day. Here's one of the strongest and most experienced members of the team, the road captain, if you want, echoing those things over and over and over during the day to keep everyone focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, I mean, it really isn't rocket science. It's just really understanding that tactic intrinsically, you know, really getting it and being able to be questioned about that tactic from the director a number of times and having all the right answers. And then they've got confidence for you to make those calls on the road.
Yeah, because everything happens so quickly in cycling. You know, like you're looking at a long stage at whatever it is, and you'd think you'd have plenty of time to think, plenty of time to plan, plenty of time to react, but you don't.
Now, a lot of the races come down to split-second decisions, and you'll look back at it and you'll go, you know, that whole 6-hour day came down to those 3 minutes. And even sometimes in our training, I look back and say, you know, all these hours we do and some of the work that I did on Zwift before Roubaix, is it that we miss that sometimes, that all these races, you know, after 20 years of being pro, you have the endurance. It's about making that one split, about getting over that one climb. It comes down to a couple of minutes. But you still have to have the endurance to do the 6 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You still have to have the legs. Hey, leaving Sky, was that a hard decision, even though you're going over to the Aussie team, Orica?
Yes and no. By the time I got there, I mean, Orica started 2 years before that. The Green Edge team was formed, and I wasn't there from the very start. I just made that transition from Rabobank to Sky, and I knew what it was like to start with a new team, to have to be with a new group of people. You have to, you know, you have to show everybody your capabilities again and go through that whole kind of new group again and the hierarchy. And I'd already done that with Sky. I wanted to spend another couple of years trying the classics, but in my third and fourth year of Sky, you know, we got into the final of some classics, and I felt that my ability was sometimes underrated. And one of the advantages of going to an Aussie team, not only that it being an Aussie team, was a guaranteed start in the Tour de France, which I hadn't had. Been pro for 15 years and I hadn't ridden the Tour. So I hadn't even won the stage that I wanted to win as a 19-year-old. I hadn't even raced to that. And I'd have some more leadership opportunities as actually going for a result in the classics. And they were the things that, that really excited me about leaving. So by the time I did get to the end of the 4 years, I was ready for a change and excited to come home.
Yeah, we're going to go to questions just after this one, Anna. So if you've got something about Maddie's early career or coming up to this point, that'd be great if you could throw that. I saw Stephen stick a question in there about the style of rider Maddie is, which hopefully it's curly. So Maddie, you get onto Orica. How important as an Aussie abroad to have an Aussie team in there? Just talk to us about your feelings on when Orica Green Edge got up and running and how it's gone into Mitchell and Scott, and it's been, winning races over there and the evolution of the team. But talk to me about your excitement when the team first got up and rolling.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody else could have done it except for Jerry Ryan, because people have been talking about it for years. We've been counting the number of Australian riders who were making it. There was all these Aussie riders, all over these Pro Tour teams, but why couldn't we get an Aussie team? And I never once thought in my career I would see it. Didn't know I was going to have quite such a long career, but there's no way I thought it would happen. So, yeah, and it took me until they're actually on the road to believe it. And then we'd had some false starts before that. But, yeah, just amazing. And I think we've already come to just take it for granted a little bit, as we found out in the last couple of months. It's not something to be taken for granted. It's a big thing to have an Australian Pro Tour team.
Very good. So, Anna, have you got a question there, Dale?
There actually is one from Stephen Hodge, and because it's such a good question, Stephen, I've just taken Stephen off mute, and maybe I can get Stephen to actually ask it, given we've got Stephen and Matt on the phone.
Well, do you want me to ask the first question? I posted a couple there just for Duncan to chuck in when he felt like it.
Yeah,
I
go
can't see him, Stephen. I'm sorry, mate.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, I mean, Maddie, you're obviously a great one-day rider, and that was your whole pedigree, growing up in Holland, but in the Netherlands. But, it's hard to make tour teams. The selections go traditionally to skinny ass little climbers, and you're not that definitely. How important was it for you, and what did it mean when you got selected to ride a tour?
Mate, unbelievable. That's 2014. I started the Tour de France in Yorkshire, in the UK. The crowds were amazing. They were bigger than anything I'd ever seen, and it was what everybody said. The tour was just twice or three times as big as any other race. I've been pro for 15 years. I thought I'd seen everything, and then you come to a race and it's just different again. But that being said, 10 days in, the second mountain stage, a day before the rest day, we're in the Folgese, going over Grand Ballon, Petit Ballon, Col de Markstein there. And I had probably one of the worst days of my life on a bike. Dropped on the first climb, came back on a wet descent, taking all kinds of risks. Dropped on the next climb, trying to chase back on, getting dropped. Another guy that's sick. I didn't feel sick, just didn't know what was wrong. Came around the corner and I think, I see some team cars. I think it was Contador that had broken his leg and he was lying on the ground. That was the only guy I saw all day. And I rode. And at one stage they said, look, you're already 40 minutes behind. The time cut's 45 minutes. And I still had to climb up Plateau de Belfise. And I clicked out, and it was a split moment thing that I did. I clicked the pedals and I couldn't undo it. And I'd stopped. I'd started my first Tour de France and I finished it. And I just, I cried for the rest of the day pretty much. No one knew what to say. No one knew what to do. And it was the lowest point by far in my career to have to pull out of Tour de France. So it wasn't until 2016, 2015, I didn't get selected. Won Roubaix in 16, and I got a start in the Tour de France. And off the back of the confidence from winning Roubaix, I just enjoyed every moment of it. And it wasn't until, I'd been pro for 16 years, and I finally rode down the Champs-Élysées as a Tour de France finisher, and I went on to finish, not win. Went on to finish another 3 after. So pretty much became a staple of the team after that, but not until I was in my late 30s.
Is that because your physique changed at all, or did your mindset change? I mean, you obviously had an opportunity with Mitchelton, but I mean, Was that it? Is that the only thing?
Oh, look, I think the sport changed a little bit, and you know, I was definitely a classics rider in 2000, and you know, Rabobank was sending teams to win GC there, and by the time I got to Sky, I was very close at Sky to starting as well, and it was kind of one of the conditions that I said about coming. You know, Matt White knows me for many years, and he'd been chasing me when the team started. And one of the things was that I really do want to ride the Tour de France. But that being said, you know, when I disappointed in 2014, they didn't select me in 2015. So you're never sure. You're never sure. So yeah, look, I developed into a road captain and a domestique, and they had the confidence that I could now get over the climbs.
So that brings us up to about 2014, 2015. And now 2016, which we really want to spend some time on, the Paris-Roubaix. And for the non-cyclists or the non-tragics on the call this morning, who are just enjoying the fitness and the ride and the bike, can you explain how brutal Paris-Roubaix is and why they call it the Hell of the North?
Why they call it the Hell of the North? I actually like the cobbles, but yeah, I guess most people are turned off by the 60-odd kilometres of cobblestones. So the first 100K of the race is pretty flat, pretty straight. We ride north from Paris towards the Belgian border. And then about 100K in, the race is 260K. 100K in, we start the cobble sections. And in that last 160K, 50 to 60 kilometres of cobbles. And we just zigzag through fields to the finish line. And unless you're 80 kilos and love them, it's the worst day of your life. And yeah, I'm just one of those few people, and there's a group of us, and we give each other a nod, and we've got our own secret handshake. We love the race, and everybody else hates it.
The Masons, the Paris, the secret handshake and the whistle. Hey, listen, so tell us what it's like. What is it like going across cobbles? Because the speed that you go across these cobbles, you don't pull up, you don't slow down. They're narrow. The crowd is on top of you. The dust, the dirt's in your gob. You're crunching it in your teeth. It's up your nose and all over you. And it's just unbelievable torture. And there's no quarter given and none. And you know the stuff that you see on YouTube, and especially the stuff that you guys shot with the Oregon Green Edge stuff, Backstage Pass, and all those sort of things that we now get involved with as massive fans. You know, it's unbelievable the aspect of the Paris-Roubaix and the conditions it throws up.
Yeah, look, I want to tell you that it's all those things, and it's brutal, and I've had some pretty awful days in hell, and you know, 2008 I finished dead last, rode half the day by myself, but I actually live for that day. For me, it's like Christmas. So, as many people tell you it's hell, I might find a day in a small race somewhere in Germany in the mountains and it's raining all day. For me, I'm not ready for that. I don't really want to be there. But Roubaix, as hard as it is, you know, I've looked forward to it and I'm ready. I've prepared myself for weeks to go into that. So yeah, it's different hard. I'm trying to get a result there. Other people might just be trying to get to the finish. So it's jarring. It hurts. I've got used to it. It's a bit hard for me now I still try and talk to the young guys as that's part of my job. And we do the recon, and I don't ride through the forest much anymore. I've been through there enough times. And I tell them, look, you know, this seems really bad, but when we get on race day, when you've got the race wheels in with the right tyre pressure, when you've got 100 people, you know, 100 other riders around you, when you've got thousands of people on the side of the road, it will feel a lot different. That's why I like to hear all the stories about the people that do the Grand Fondo the day before, because that sounds to me like hell. I've got it easy. I'm racing through there with crowds and fans and TV motorbikes. I know exactly why I'm there, you know. So it's a choice.
Okay. So let's get on to 2016, because this is the race that you say suits you, which is completely suicidal. But you do line up for it. Now, 2016 a difficult, and you talk about the pain. You know, you broke your arm. You're on basically a wind trainer for 4 weeks coming into Paris-Roubaix. It was your worst preparation ever for your favourite race. Yeah. And yet you got to the line and you hit this bubble or flow state. that you talk about. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, look, so big preparation as per normal, all of November and December, big Ks in Australia, you know, missing Christmas and New Year's and all those kinds of things. Go straight to our altitude camp, getting ready for the season, everything's on track. The very first one-day race in Belgium, I crash and fracture my radius and puts my arm in the cast. I find Zwift. I'm in the garage. You know, I've just got an old home trainer. I've got the MacBook. Now I've got a big, massive TV screen. I've got the full pain cave set up. But back then I just had a ladder and a MacBook. And, you know, and found that. And I just started plugging away, doing double sessions every day. My coach started to get excited after a couple of weeks. And, but really never once thinking that I was going to win Roubaix. I mean, there wasn't my thought. My thought was, I've trained for three and a half months. I've been away from the family and I want to keep all that form for when I do return. And the thought was, I'd love to ride Roubaix. I'd love to be there. I'd love to be back in the team. There was no other real option for me. So, and it wasn't until the weekend before I did a couple of races in Spain and started to feel really good. Again, my coach was on to me, great numbers, whatever. I haven't, you know, I'm not even in this really. And then, and again, so what you mentioned is I went into the race just wanting to be my favorite race. All the pressure of the other years going in there, you know, really sitting there thinking, today I have to get a result. You know, I've been 8th, I've been 10th. Could this be the year? And this year I just turned up, happy to see the boys. You know, I'm normally out there pumping my own tyres up because I don't trust the mechanics. And now I said, I'll put whatever in, I don't care. I rode the wrong bike, I rode the wrong wheels. I jumped in a breakaway. I did everything that I'd never do just because I had no pressure. And in the back of my mind the whole time was, I haven't done the lead-up races. I haven't done the work. I'm not in form. So I really do need to keep a lid on it. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Well, the wheels are going to fall off. You can't. And so it was a combination of both those things, just having that constant little handbrake on saying, don't do too much because you've only done a couple of hours on Zwift every day. You can't win a 6-hour bike race. And having the freedom of just not caring and just being happy that I was in Roubaix.
Well, you're handling a lot that race because you had Tommy Boonen in there, some big names who were basically, you know, superstars, won a couple of 100 races to your 2 or 3 at that stage of your career. So you've got this like David and Goliath type race unfolding. Plus your teammates are going down behind you. You know, Mitch had a really bad, one of your teammates had a really bad accident that would have come over the radio at that stage and everyone would have been upset. There was crashes, there was motorbikes, you know, motorbike cameras landing on cyclists at certain stages and running into the crowd. It was a classic Roubaix in every single sense of the word when you look at the history of the event. And yet you seem to flow through it. And as Stephen just put up on the bulletin board there, you know, saving so much energy because you weren't thinking about it.
Yeah, look, getting in that breakaway was something probably if I was, you know, going for a result, it's, you know, I jumped in that breakaway using all the knowledge. It was my 15th Roubaix. And just knowing when they go and knowing exactly which, and I didn't have to be in it. Another year I might have chosen that as a tactic and said, I've got to be in the breakaway and used a lot of energy to get in there. And now it was like, if this one goes, I'll go with it. That's 20 guys, that'll be good. And I jumped away and got in it. Then every sector that I went into for the first 3 hours of the race, I didn't really have to fight for position. So I was just sitting there waiting. And again, using my experience from 2011, where I tried to keep that breakaway away because I was in a good group, I said, I'm not going to control when they catch me. When they catch me, they catch me. I'm just here getting a free ride until that point because when they do catch me, I want to be ready. So that was just the experience from it, you know, a few years before, which I did beat myself up about for a number of months afterwards because I made some mistakes. So yeah, just like you said, it was that flow and it was just positivity until about 10K to go and I got knocked off the wheel and I really did think, you know, this is what I deserve. This is where I am. Who was I kind of, you know, I was getting a bit too big for my shoes there, thinking down to 5 guys in Roubaix and I'll probably get caught by the group behind and finish 20 something. And there was a very definite moment on those cobbles that I said, I've got nothing to lose here. So I just said, I can see what that split session between being really disappointed and just accepting it, or saying I've got nothing to lose if I just keep going left, right, and just see where I end up. I did that and I caught them, and that was a real turning point for me mentally to say, I'm now in the final, and in fact, these guys aren't better. Until that point, I thought everyone else was better than me. And then I started, making some good moves.
So you've had this switch in the moment. Basically, you're saying you've basically got back on your bike and then you've caught them. And it's one of the most exciting moments in all of Australian cycling history, I can tell you. When you caught them again, and the commentary that went with it, with Robbie and Matt Keenan and stuff like that, and all of us back home in our, we all felt it at the same time. But for you, there was a switch of why not me? From
very much so.
I might get 20th here if I'm lucky, and then you catch them and then the thrill and it almost.
It wasn't until it was almost gone that, it was almost gone out of my grasp. And I kind of snapped back to, wait a minute, let's not get too complacent here. And also, actually, they're not as good as you thought they were. I kind of pegged myself as the fifth best. Tom Boonen, Edvald Boassenhagen, Ian Stannard, and Sepp Vermarker, they're all names. And going into the final, I definitely played off the fact that they all had to win. No one was expecting me. I know for a fact on the Sky radio, they said, make sure you get in front of Hayman before the cobbles because he'll probably get dropped. So they definitely taken me out of the equation. So, they definitely, and I made a couple of moves there, and I'll only ever know they were very slight, where I let the wheel go or let someone else chase something down. But I felt in control, but to be honest, I really do feel like I rode that final like Simon Gerrans would, which is how I know you're supposed to do it, but it's not always how I had raced during my career.
It was huge flip.
And the way Simon would race was exactly, it was looking back, it was textbook. Had I got second, maybe not.
Yeah, well, it's when you did cross that line, and I'll open it up for questions now because I've been talking to you now for 33 minutes, and I know there's a lot of people with questions and they want to get on. But that photograph of you coming around, going for the line, throwing at the line in front of Tommy Boonen, who's won it 4 or 5 times and knows all about the velodrome. It's absolutely amazing. And yet for you, it was too surreal. For you, you've come across the line, you've done the salute, which we're really, really happy for because you really realised where the line was. So you weren't completely sort of in the bubble, not enough to know where the line was. But after that, the sliding door effect of sort of like the dream and the reality colliding in the one thing, a little bit too much for you. It's really interesting scenes to see you trying to compute it.
Yeah, very much so. Like I did take my hands off and there was a very quick calculation of there's no one up the road. There's not another this, it wasn't right. I was pretty sure I heard a bell. I'm pretty sure Tom was sprinting as fast as he could. And then very much so from that serene feeling of just feeling like I was racing a few mates, making good decisions, feeling in control to what's everyone going to think. Back to that kind of insecurity that a lot of athletes have that's deep down. And I'd been in that flow for the last couple of hours, feeling pretty confident. And now it's like people are going to be disappointed with this, or how am I supposed to behave, Normally I'm sitting in the middle thinking what if, and that's where that's what I should have done differently. And now I was being whisked off with the TV cameras to the podium.
Yeah, it must have been all around you. The moment must have been all around you, but not actually happening and articulating to you in terms of the process. But all your teammates, like I said, Rod McHugh and Matt Keenan, some of the funniest vision you've ever seen in terms of the commentary box while you were racing into the velodrome and how you caught them and went past them and the breakaway. And then you've got your teammates, you've got your team car behind you, the teammates on the bus. It is such an amazing team, the Mitchelton Scott team and the 2016 team especially. They were all in tears for you. They knew what it meant. When you watch that vision of your teammates, it must be so fulfilling.
Yeah, it's something you would have got years ago, and very much so. That's now becoming my memory of the race. Those clips, because as I get older, my memory fades as that race becomes further and further away. The actual memory of that day and the last couple of kilometres get played numerous times, and the backstage pass, Dan Jones, really, you know, captured our team and brought our team to life for a lot of people. And, you know, it was great to turn up to a race and have people in Spain calling people by their Aussie nicknames, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Demo, in Spanish or something, because they'd heard that these guys were called this in the team, you know, and he really captured, there was a real connection with our fans. So we had a great fan base through those backstage pass. And while it's been viewed a number of times, you know, it's pretty special to me to be able to look back and see teammates, soigneurs, mechanics, you know, celebrating. And that's not normally something you ever get to see. So that's very special.
I tell you, that backstage pass is a real ramp up. Like, as tragic fans, we've watched On the Road to Paris with Lance Armstrong back in the day. We watched Overcoming about the CSC team, following them around with their superstars. And the backstage part just took it to another level. They took it to the inclusion of basically someone like you guys in the team bus and everything like that. We're going to open it up for questions now, because I know there's a lot of people wanting to pile and get in. Anna, have you got a question there for Maddie from the crowd?
I do actually. There's one, I'm just having a look there. So there's one from John Darcy just around the equipment for the 2016 road bar.
Yeah, he's got the bike set up for the race there, yeah. So they come with an option for a brand new bike. But the bike that I rode was the one that I'd ridden at 2 at under, and I knew that that's the one I kind of want. So it was a Scott Foil, which is a full aero bike. And they came something with some more compliance, and I said, look, let's just go with what I know. I know the seat's not going to slip down. I don't want a brand new bike on the start line. I rode the deep dish wheels. I remember being on the start line with Heinrich Hausler, and he thought I was changing bikes at the first cobble section. He said, going in the breakaway, I'm going to change bikes, are you? Aero bike and deep wheels. I said, no, mate, I'm riding this to the finish. And he was actually in the front group until the last 15K, and he couldn't believe that I was riding that bike. And yeah, look, we run the tyres really low. Mechanics talk in bar instead of PSI, but we're talking between 4 and 5 bar. But we're running 26 to 28 mil tyres. So going back then, I was on Continental tyres. No double handlebar tape. That's just me. So pretty standard setup, just deep dish wheels and baggy tyres.
And you said tubeless?
Yeah.
Sorry, Duncan.
No, just, yeah, singles, no tubeless yet. A few teams, I think we're going to start running them this year for the first time. So I'm still yet to test those or try them.
So with your setup in 2016, did that inspire others' setups in 2017?
Yeah, I think I've always been, you know, with my experience there, I've said that the tyres make a difference. That's the contact with the thing. So, and even for anybody who's riding now, rather than going and buying a new bike or something, to have a bigger bag tyre and putting a little bit less pressure in, you're going to feel the difference more than changing your frame, I think. Maybe a seat if you're really struggling, but, you know, you can get away with riding 70, 80 PSI with a big bag tyre, and your bike's going to feel very, very comfortable on the road. So I was always looking for the right tyre pressure rather than changing anything else. And to the point where it was agonising for the mechanics, I would be riding up and down, and we were going lower and lower down to 3 bar, like, you know, 45, 50 PSI. And I've ridden way too low a number of times because there still is 200 kilometres of asphalt, and they're riding at 45, 50k an hour on the asphalt. When you're riding around on 50 PSI, you're putting out a lot more watts on the asphalt. So, yeah, that's where I found it.
It's that balance, isn't it? In terms of how to find that balance between the cobbles and the road. Is there any pressure? Now we're talking about gear. Is there any pressure from the sponsors of a pro team to get in the right gear, to get in the newest thing, to get into the U-Butte trending for the Tragics and the fan base onto the cobbles? You know, I think
it slipped out of Luke Durbridge's mouth in the team bus. He said Lars would have said you would have won by more if you rode the other bike. Right. There was some pressure there to ride a different bike. But that being said, that year, IM Cycling was riding Scott as well, and they had 2 guys in the top 10, and we were all on different bikes from Scott, the manufacturer. So 3 different types of bike in the top 10. So I think they were happy enough. I've still got a good relationship with Scott.
Scotties are going. Yeah, Scotties are going good. Anna, you got another question there?
There is actually. It's from Brad Geyer saying, how is COVID affecting you mentally, physically, and changing goals?
Well, yeah, you guys, I've kept up on all the news with Melbourne going back into lockdown, and I can imagine that also having been there and coming out must be even more hard and more frustrating for a lot of people. I think, like everybody, I've been through the roller coaster, which is great, more time with the family. This is awesome. You know, turning off TVs, putting down electronics, spending more time with people, to, oh my God, what's going on? When will I ever be able to travel again? When will I ever be able to get back to my job? So it has been up and down. And I think I'd like to think that I'm able to, when we do go back to whatever the normality is, that I'm able to, you know, slow down a little bit. I mean, we used to just jump on a plane to do anything, and spending probably more time than I should have been away from the family, and also maybe not connecting enough. So that's something I've really taken away, that I need to just prioritise that time with the family. And in many ways, you know, it was a reason to retire at the start of 2019, to spend more time, but I quickly slipped into the role of director, and before I knew it, I was away as much as I was as a rider.
Yeah, it must have been really, really difficult to step away from the sport, because all the backstage pass and, you know, your great teammates like Chavs and the Aussie boys and the New Zealanders, you know, you've got such an eclectic group on that team. It must have been really, really difficult to make that decision after it's been such a major part of your life to retire in 2019.
Yeah, look, really, just pretty much scared. I mean, I didn't know anything else. And I had a couple of people, I remember talking to Stewie and Matt Goss in Australia, you know, before I retired. And they said, look, it's not that bad. You get used to it pretty quick. And they were right. Just a real unknown. You've just been, for so many years, it's been so normal just to be totally focused, totally dedicated, and just not knowing what it was going to bring. So, yeah, it was pretty scary to retire. Looking back, I trained that extra 3 months to finish at Tour Down Under. Daryl Impey won Tour Down Under on Wollonga Hill, and I rode up there for the last time and finished my career. And I couldn't have, you know, that was amazing. Yeah. So
scripted beautifully.
Yeah, I had to thank the team for letting me ride there, and I had to thank my wife for letting me train for 3 months to do 5 days of racing with the boys in Adelaide.
Because it is a balance between your beautiful family. You got 3 kids now. You're living in Belgium. So what is your role with Green Edge now?
Yeah. It started as, you know, being maybe a jack of all trades with testing, and I did develop a new tyre for the classics and a few of those things, but it has ended up being more just being a director, and the classics are still something I'm passionate about. But I've still, you know, there's a number of different guys that I've had to learn from in the team. And it really is, you know, it's a lot different than I thought. I spent 20 years in the peloton riding the bike, and then to sit in the team car and really, you know, feel that you're that far removed from what you knew, which was just on the other side of the window, yet having to get used to not having all the information, not feeling the other guys, not seeing everything, and having to make decisions. I spent a bit of my time complaining about directors, and I had a bit of a newfound thinking, how hard is it? Just give me the information. And I've realised it is actually a lot harder than I thought, and the information is very hard to come by. So I've been doing my best to try and get that information to the guys.
Yeah, so you don't have to learn the new language. You don't have to learn a new cadence, but you do have to learn a new role. And it's sometimes a lot more complicated than you think. Do you see yourself doing this really, really long term? Do you see you're going to be part of this sport for, you know, decades to come?
I said never going to be a director, never. And it's my second year already. So I'd like to say no because of the travel and the amount of time. You know, there is a pull for us to move back to Australia, and, you know, we've got family there and the kids are getting older. But who knows? And I mean, I think with this COVID, we just realised that nothing is for sure anymore, and we never really do know what's around the corner. No one could have expected this. during this period, I've also realised that I do miss the team. I do miss the boys. I do miss racing a team car, getting that Skoda on 2 wheels down the mountain. So, yeah, I don't really know what the future is. It's really, again, maybe a little bit of that being scared of the unknown. But I definitely love this sport, and somehow we'll try to stay attached. I mean, look at what Stephen's done now for cycling in Australia, and what he was talking about last week. You know, I think we were talking about that's going to be his legacy as much as of any cycling event he ever rode in. So, you know, that's inspiring to hear that.
Do your kids, are your kids going to get into it?
Oof. The eldest is 9. At the start, we thought maybe, but I've got twins that are 3, and the young boy last week he got his first bike with pedals on it. He's been on a balance bike, and he's off. He's gone. Okay. He's over the handlebars. He has a face on him, and he just sprints everywhere. So I'm very worried he'll be back in Europe, going around to races with him, not too distant future.
Sure, very worried. Sure. We might have
a second career through my son.
Yeah, you might have to put manager as a new role in the future sometime. Hey, that's fantastic. Have we got another question there, Adam?
We do. There's one going back to the TDF start line. Matt, you spoke about being 80 kilos and the challenges that presented, especially getting selected for the TDF start line. How did you overcome this? Training for the climbs? And it's also spoke about what pain feels like, and is it easier? You know, obviously easier with a younger, a younger body.
I think you get with the pain, you get a bit smarter as I got older. Getting to the start line of the tour was really about making sure that I could show the team that I could get to the mountains, but then just being, you know, a necessity in the team, making sure that they could not ride the Tour de France without me on the flats. You know, there've been days in the tour where, you know, I'm all but last wheel with one of the Yates boys on my wheel going through a roundabout. I cannot go anymore. And he's saying, can you move left a little? And he's wearing the white jersey, and we're just about to see it go up the road. You know, and a lot of my role was to take that stress away. They never stress, and I stress for them. So it was just, you know, that the team needed me on the start line to support the GC ambitions. They knew I was going to have it tough in the mountains. I'd go to altitude. I'd trim down as much as I could. And then just over the years, you get a little bit more confidence in your ability and a little bit more sure of yourself in the mountains. And, you know, you're still, you know, I still got scared about it. I still talked to a sports psychologist before my last tour a couple of years ago about teams time trial and mountain stages in Tour de France. You wake up nervous about being sent home that night.
I know you can't talk too much about it because you're one of the directors of the team, but there's been a call out from Tim Blackburn just to, you know, there are lots of media going in about a buyout at the moment. And you talked about the instability of pro cycling and the sponsorship behind that, and the incredible job that Jerry Ryan has done over the decades, not just at the pro tour, but everywhere around Australia with amateur racing and charity work and stuff like that. So can you tell us anything about that, mate?
Yeah, look, at the moment, you know, the buyout didn't go through. The change of the team going to Manuela Foundation didn't go through for whatever reasons. And I think because of the COVID situation at the moment, not being on the ground, and I think everybody knows that the office is where everybody talks and all the rumours go around. We've been a bit removed, so I don't have the full story, even if I was able to tell you. But, you know, and I'm confident. Well, Jerry stepped back in, and you know, for me, that's amazing. I think we don't deserve that, and it gives everybody a lot of confidence now to relax and get on with what we're doing. And you know, we're all, you know, very hopeful. We've been searching for a sponsor for many years, and Jerry, you know, keeps coming and backing us. But we'd like to think with the results we have, and with the, you know, the persona that we portray, and you know, the number of fans and you know, that we have, that we'd be able to find a sponsor that would like to back us as a group and not try and change us and just buy us out for our license. So I'm really, you know, I'm indebted. I mean, I owe that rock to Jerry Ryan, and And for him to step up again is just, you know, beyond belief, really. In a tough time for him, with all his businesses being in the entertainment industry and across those industries. You know.
Yeah, well, he certainly has provided you with a base and a foundation to be entertaining. And like I was saying before, that backstage pass has brought to life so many of your teammates that we might not have known, from Dean to Jack to, you know, all of them. Yeah. One of them is Esteban Chavez, and he really became a superstar. What's your relationship with him? Because it is quite a special relationship when you look at how competitive you guys are, even within the team and outside the team, and what you do for a job. You know, but you've got a special relationship with Esteban Chavez, haven't you?
Yeah. I'd, you know, the very first camp we were in Australia. First of all, he thought I was German because I had my hair neatly parted, and then he said, for sure, this guy German, and I was always on time, very German-like. That's why I'm, you know, in the team leader. And then, we're at the first training camp, and, you know, I'd invite him along for a coffee or something. So, come on, let's go into town for a coffee. He put all his team clothes on and came, and he only found out a few months later. He thought we were going to a team meeting and didn't know where I was taking him. He sat down and didn't know what was happening. So his English was pretty poor to start with. But as you said, look, a lot of the time we're great teammates, but a lot of the time you're comparing yourself to the guys you know best. So they're the other guys in your weight class, and you're doing the same classics riders. And Esteban and I have no competitive spirit. We're just totally different athletes. He's a mountain climber. I'm a classics rider. And I serve him well in the Grand Tours. We really clicked. He follows me, no questions asked. He calls me boss and just does whatever I said. He had, you know, blind faith in that I would drop him off at the bottom of the climb. And we've just hit it off. And he's had some really rough years. I've seen some photos recently. I hope to be taking him to the Tour de France in a couple of months, and I hope we win a stage there with him, because I've seen him back to the Esteban Chavez we saw winning stages of the Giro and the Vuelta. So I'm excited because he's had a few rough years, and I want to see him, you know, get that real passion back, because when he first joined the team, he was very passionate about cycling. And so really, really nice guy. He's got a foundation in Colombia that supports, that raises money for children with disabilities to have operations, and, you know, a real character. And you know, Jerry also says, not only are we in the entertainment business, but it's all about the culture, and it's about the people you have, and he's become a core part of the team and the culture.
Absolutely. Now we've got around about 7 minutes to go, everybody, before we'll wrap it up. What about which riders in the current? This is from Di, the biggest fangirl on this call, by the way, Maddie. Which riders in the current? Yeah, she is. Which riders in the current or past peloton do you admire? And I think she's on an e-bike, but that's okay.
Oh, look, there's a lot. I mean, I rode a fair bit for Simon Gerrans. I mentioned him before. You know, from the outside, he was not always the most, you know, flamboyant rider to watch, but as riding for somebody and your sole goal, I mean, we're professionals, we just want to win. And he was always dedicated to just doing that one thing. We'd come up with a plan, he would stick to the plan, and his strike rate was unbelievable. So it was nice to ride with that. I'm a massive fan of Daryl Impey for, you know, I'm talking about riders from our current team. And, you know, he went from supporting Simon in those wins to now turning around and getting themselves. And there's not many riders that can do that. And it shows that, you know, often it looked like, you know, he was giving away his opportunity to let Simon, or to help Simon win races. And often it's, you know, that step from helping someone win to winning yourself is massive. And he's been able to make that step. And again, another guy, even though he's South African, he really fits in with the ethos of the team. And, you know, he's really down to earth. And when the young riders come on the team, he calls a spade a spade. And it's nice to work with someone like Daryl.
Absolutely. Hey, you have in your possession probably one of the most unique trophies ever in sport. You know, this massive, fat, thick, grey cobblestone, which looks exactly like that. I was wondering what you did with it. But
I keep it in the garage. It's about 19 kilos or 18 kilos, so I'm not sure I'm going to get it back to Australia.
Well, you should ring the AOC or someone in sport or the government. They'll fly it back for you. Maybe even talk to Telstra. We're good at that. But what I'm saying is, I've always thought it was completely unfair for you guys to have ridden so far that you're only about 80 kilos wringing wet because you don't know how to handle food, and then you have to hoist that thing above your head in a moment of absolute triumph at the end of the day. And how it hasn't brained half the winners of the Paris-Roubaix on the podium is beyond me. What was it like to hoist it?
There's a reason they put it on the ground in front of the podium, and I only found that out later. It's because no one would dare walk over with it. It is a lot harder, a lot heavier, and a lot harder to move than it looks. So I'm standing next to the guy that already has 4 at home, who the whole country of Belgium in which I live is waiting to win his 5th and to be the all-time record holder. So he looks across and I have to bend down and pick this up, and I almost struggled with it, but at that moment you don't have any options. So I found a way to get my fingers underneath 20 kilos and up she went. And again, talking about the backstage pass, you hear Luke Durbridge in the bus saying, "Go on, give it a kiss," and so I do.
Yeah, exactly. And the effect that cobblestone has on your team in that footage, of course, but the effect that the monument of the trophy is, they really got it right, haven't they? They rarely do you get a sporting victory where they actually give you part of what you won on. You know what I mean? They don't give you a bit of the MCG. They don't give you the bit of the Sydney Football Stadium. But they give you a absolute real piece of Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah. Look, there's a group of people that actually look after cobbles. Then they're all volunteers, and they select a rock every year and give it to the organisers to present. So they're out there making sure that these stones. I won the 114th edition, and they fix up a few sections. But it does really, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. To most people, that it is just a rock, but to people who know, it's something very, very special.
It's more precious than gold, my friend. And and now you mentioned before, you keep it in the garage. You don't put it on display.
No, it is. I just brought it in here for tonight. It's in the living room. I have a nice spotlight that sits on top of it. And look, it used to be pride of place, but now with 3 kids, there's often a Star Wars Lego ship in front of it, or on top of it, or around it.
As it should be.
It gets pushed to the side every time a new bit of Lego gets made. So they're not
that's the way it should be. Hey, listen, Stephen wants to know, Paris-Roubaix. Speaking of kids, so when you look at the Paris-Roubaix victory, it's obviously on paper your best result. What's your favorite victory? Well, what's your favorite moment in your career when you look back? And I know there's so many. Like you've only got to look at basically your results, and there's just thousands of them. But what's yours? What's your favorite?
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess I look back and I've thought about a lot of different races that I've really enjoyed, and most of them come down to winning. I did enjoy going back, I must say, I didn't want to crash in my last Roubaix because I wanted to go back and ride the Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast. And I felt for me that was a real circle. I won in Melbourne in 2006, and coming back, I crashed in the last World Championships and didn't finish in Norway. And I knew I was retiring, and I didn't want that to be, I don't pull out of many races, and to pull out of the World Championships in the Aussie jersey, I really wanted one last big effort. And that race in the Gold Coast was something special, and I've always really, really enjoyed it. Didn't matter how many times, and I represented Australia a number of times. To pull on that jersey was something special, and I made a pretty big effort to get back to the Gold Coast, and that was a special one for me. Both 2006 and again on the Gold Coast, and of course the Roubaix. I mean, that's what I'll be remembered for, and it's actually a pretty nice race to be remembered for.
Well, mate, there's a great place to finish actually with what you want to be remembered for, and your passion for the green and gold, as well as for the pro teams that you rode in, has been on display this morning. You spent an hour with us, mate, all the way over from Belgium. We're so pleased with that. Thank you for giving us the insight, not just on Paris-Roubaix, but on your family, on your future, on what's happening with the team at the moment, and your dreams and your hopes for the future, as well as everything you've achieved in the past, mate. So on behalf of everyone at TCC, we really, really thank you. Getting some good feedback already. Brilliant, Mathew. from Stephen and everything like that. John Darcy, thank you so much, Mathew. So it's already rolling in, mate. You're a superstar, and we're just so pleased and blessed to have you along for our ride this morning and sharing your story. We really thank you.
No, thanks very much, guys, and you know, amazing all the people joining in, and I thoroughly enjoyed Stephen last week, and I understand why this is a hit. Doing a bit of exercise before work. And I just, everybody in Melbourne and that area, you know, stay safe and be safe. Look after yourselves. Look after your mental state as well. And hopefully we're through this quick enough and back to some kind of normal.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, mate. You can go and go jump into bed.
All right, guys.
Nice hot shower.
Yeah. I was just going to ask Matt one thing. Can you do me a favour, because I didn't quite get you holding up your beautiful rock? Can you just hold it up for me so I can get a proper screenshot? Yeah, I want to have that for our post. Okay, ready? Hold it up a bit further. Up. That's it. Ready? Okay. Hang on a second, and I'll tell you if I've got it. Sorry to do this right
Come
Oh,
on, mate.
end.
Use your extra kilos. Get it up there.
I need you to go
I need to get
higher.
back in the pool.
I know. Go. That's it. Bit higher. Hold it up higher. Come on, muscle. Okay. Hang on a sec. Yeah. I know it's heavy. I think I should be okay. Thank you.
There's always one more photograph with photographers.
Thank you very
I'm
much,
sorry.
Matt.
Thank you.
Great
Go on,
moment.
Matt.
No worries, guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
That was
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Megan Herron, are you there, Megan?
I am.
Megan Herron there?
Yeah, can we get a
Anna,
sign off
Duncan,
from
can
Megan
we get-
Herron?
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. I'm onto it, Sandy. Thanks very much for the help. Can we get Megan Herron, one of our great and dedicated followers of TCC, to sign off for us, please?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Matthew, for joining us today and for a great chat. I've followed your career for many years and remember you in the Rabobank jersey. And finally, a few years ago at the Towards Zero Crits in Melbourne, I had the opportunity to say congrats and ask for a pic, but completely fangirled and went shy. So, pretty pleased. Can we take a quick selfie now? Just smile. Thank you. Wonderful.
Perfect.
Thanks again for joining us. Thanks for the
Megan.
selfie, for the ride, for the chat.
That was awesome.
For another great session, and thanks everyone for Cycling Connected.
Thank you.
Take care.
Megan, thanks for being our
Very
voice
much,
of the
Megan.
bunch today. That's awesome.
Absolute
So thanks,
pleasure.
Maddie, and thank you to everybody
Thanks,
in the
Matt.
steering committee. Please stay online so we can have a bit of a debrief about next week and to slap each other on the back about this week. So thanks very much, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Right, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.